Hey y'all, it's Livy Redden. Welcome back to Today is the Future. Today we have on an incredible guest. She is really just amazing, amazing speaker, amazing athlete, amazing mother, amazing writer. And her name is Leah Amico. She is a 3-time Olympic gold medalist with USA Softball. This made her one of only 4 women who hold 3 Olympic gold medals in softball, which is crazy. In addition, she is a 2-time world champion, a National Softball Hall of Fame inductee in 2009, and a 3-time national champion at the University of Arizona. Leah still holds the record for highest batting average in the Women's College World Series. Leah is also a college softball analyst with ESPN and Westwood's One Sports. She's experienced triumphs and overcoming trials, and she has really learned how to perform in high-pressure situations, and helped pass on some of that wisdom and help other people reach new heights of success. Excuse me, I'm gonna quote that. And she's also passed on her wisdom for the past 2 decades through her inspirational speaking. Leah leaves people believing that they can and will conquer their personal and career goals if they will apply the core principles she speaks about. So let's welcome her to the podcast. Hello.
Thank you, Livy. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
I've been so excited for this, and been listening to podcasts you've been on. We've obviously met before, and reading your book, and I'm so curious about so many things. But first of all, I mean, that is so many gold medals. You're just using them as paperweights at a certain point.
Well, I compare to other people, so I was like, I could have gotten way more, right? Michael Phelps, I mean, nobody can touch him. But it was amazing. Now, again, track athletes, they can win them so fast. Swimmers, softball, you had to it's one Olympics,
That's
one medal.
true.
You had to play 10 games to get to the finals, so it was hard to come by, but I would not change it for the world. It was the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, but still 1 of 4. I mean, that is crazy. But to start out, I was thinking about how I wanted to start out as far as digging into your story, because I wanted to talk a little bit about your story and your career, and then discuss a little bit about this gold standard framework that you've developed. But to start out, I want people to have a better understanding of you as a whole. And I was curious, this is a little bit of an obscure question, but let's say that your Olympic career was turned into a movie. What is a scene from the journey that illustrates a lot about who you are? What would be a scene you would want to include?
I think it's just the underdog mentality. I really think I tell people a lot when I speak. I say, if you had come to a practice, especially once I started getting to the higher levels, you probably wouldn't have picked me, because you would have seen people faster, stronger. You would have been like, that's the one that's shining in practice. Yeah. Not that I did bad, but my moments of shining really came in big moments, in crucial moments when the game was on the line. And for me, again, practice was everything. But as I got to the highest levels, I realized mentality was what elevated the best athletes.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, it's really cool for me to hear, because I just think back when I was an athlete in high school, and I grew so fast. I was a basketball player, so tall and lanky, and it was always I wasn't really someone that would necessarily get picked, but I was, I remember before freshman year tryouts, I was in the weight room for real, gained 15 pounds the summer before, was just hungry, but I was definitely not the person people would necessarily pick. So it's really cool to hear you say that. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I like that word hungry, because I think for me, I could never be good enough. Yeah. So I tell people, they could maybe beat me in a foot race. Some of my teammates eventually are opponents. Yeah. And again, strength, right, if we're lifting weights, they'd surpass me. Yeah. But I say they would not outwork me because I was going to work so hard no matter what, which that took me to the top and kept me as an Olympian. I couldn't have gotten there or stayed there for sure if I didn't have that work ethic. And then I said, and very few were going to battle me mindset wise, because I just believed. And ultimately, I was there because I wanted my team to win. Yeah. And that was another big piece of it for me. I think it had just been, if it was just for me, I don't know that I would have reached the levels that I reached, but because it was truly like this team mentality and I want my team to win no matter what, it pulls something extra out of me.
I like that. Very cool. And yeah, as far as your journey of playing with a team, and I mean, this is really such a huge part of your life for so long. I mean, just like everything you're focusing on. I was curious, you know, so when you won your first gold medal, you were 22?
I was 21.
You were 21. I think that's so interesting. And I was curious because you had such massive success in your 20s early 20s, but in your early 20s, you're still sort of growing into yourself. And I'm curious, did that contrast of being so accomplished in one area, but you're still sort of finding yourself in other areas, did it ever feel sort of unsettling or disorienting?
I think like it was a mix of like, okay, I think I belong. I deserve to be here. I've earned it. But oh my gosh, I still have so much to learn. Yeah. It was truly both. So going all in with what I have and what I do know, while being very aware of what I can learn from those around me. Some of my Olympic teammates, 34 years old was my oldest teammate. That's a big age gap from 21 to 34. Yeah. And again, although I felt like I'm in my prime, I'm 21, I'm a college athlete, I realized, wow, like there's so much growth. Look at how long she's stayed with it. Think about me in 10 years and what I'm going to learn on top of what I already know now. And so I think it really was that mix of like, no, I belong in this moment, but what else can I keep adding?
So just sort of allowing space for the juxtaposition, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to tell you, that's probably something that's stayed with me my entire life because now I'm a lot older. I've had a lot of different experiences. And yet I think it's this idea that I still can grow. Yeah. And really that's what helped us win 3 gold medals, right? A lot of people are like, oh, gold medal, okay, you're good. And in fact, between my first and second, our training stayed very similar. We had an old school coach who was in his 70s who thought don't change much, but everybody else was changing because they were hungry. And so I've learned that what gets you there might not, I don't think it will keep you there. We all have to keep evolving and growing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that perspective. And I think there's a humility that's required to that. And on the topic of humility, and just like how people that are peak performers are still just humans, I'm curious if there's a moment in your Olympic journey that was just like unbelievably normal. Like I just won a gold medal, but like now I'm doing laundry type of thing.
Well, okay. So my last Olympics, I was a mom. My son was 3 years old. Very much more juggling going on, right? Life is happening. I go to the Olympics. I get home and actually as soon as it was over, a lot of my teammates, they stayed, they celebrated, they went to closing ceremonies. Nope. I was on a plane getting back to my family. I'm sitting there watching the women's basketball team win their gold medal. I have my son next to me on the couch and I'm literally like, I was just there. Like I was literally on the other side of the world winning gold on TV. And now I'm back to like normal life, AKA normal life, mom, helping my kid, let's go to the bathroom, making sure you get in bed. And it was, I think for me, that was this aha moment of like how fast everything can change. And that reminder of like soaking in every single minute that you have.
Yeah. Huh. And that was after your third medal.
Yes, that was after my third.
So funny. Huh. I love that. And I think it's so cool that you won that one as a mom as well. I think that's so inspirational. That's just as someone that wants to have kids of my own, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think it's important, and I learned like it's okay to juggle a lot. If you love what you're doing, and you're going down the path that you know that you're pursuing the goals set before yourself because you're passionate about it. Like there's room.
Yeah, I like that. And sort of in addition to that, kind of you're talking about savoring every moment. And as I was reading your book, I was thinking about. I mean, I know quite a few college or Olympic athletes, as well as people that were once college or Olympic athletes, and what they do now is help people with that transition of going from, this sport being your whole life. And it is, I mean, from the people that I've talked to, it is such a crazy transition, because with a sport, not only was that your career, like that started in your childhood. Like this is what you've been doing. And so I think it brings up this question that everyone can relate to, which is, what do you do when you feel like you've outgrown a version of yourself, but you haven't quite figured out what's next?
I say yes to the opportunities before you. I am a big believer in what opportunities are before me. When I give something a try, you're going to know whether you like it or don't like it, whether you're good at it or not good at it, and whether you want to keep going in that direction or close that door and move to the next opportunity.
Yeah.
I remember hearing this. I'm a pretty passionate person. I was a passionate player, very like wear my emotion on my sleeve. I love to win, right? I hate to lose. But I remember hearing this and I was like, this has been my journey, and it's taken me places beyond what I could imagine. I heard someone say, don't chase your passions, which I was like, well, why not? Like, I want to chase my passions, right? I played softball. I was passionate about it. Chase the opportunities that are placed before you and pursue those, and you just might find new passions. Well, that's been the case. ESPN, commentating, the opportunity came to me, being able to speak all over. The opportunity came to me. They were not things that I originally, in fact, I actually said no at first.
Yeah.
But when the opportunity came, I was like, wow, I don't feel qualified. I don't feel like I can, but I really believe. Do it afraid, do it. And even if you're not good at it at first, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
But then I was like, ooh, but I like this and I want to get better. How quick can I learn something? And that was my sport, right? I had to make quick adjustments in order to keep climbing the ladder. So with that, how fast can I make adjustments in the real life, right? And for you, doing this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Your first one compared to your 100th one, that's a massive difference, right?
Yeah.
Everybody needs reps.
Yeah.
But step forward in it, give all that you have, do as much preparation as you can without experience, and pretty soon you'll add experience to the list.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. And it's really interesting that, so speaking, for example, you didn't necessarily, that was just something that sort of came to you and you were kind of like, okay.
In fact, I said no. Like, I did not want to. I was scared to death. I was convinced in every way, like my teammates, like I played with people from UCLA, Stanford. In my head, I was like, pick them. Again, they're stronger, faster, and they're smarter.
Yeah.
and funnier. But eventually it was like people were asking me to come and do it. And so I just said yes. And I'm sure I walked off the stage, and let me tell you, because I'm pretty hard on myself, right? I'm a perfectionist. Yeah. I was like, I'm terrible. That was the worst. I'm never doing it again. And then another opportunity came.
Yeah.
And then I said yes again, and I got a little bit better. And then a little bit better. And the opportunities just kept coming. And eventually they've just grown to what I'm doing now. And I'm speaking to all different types of groups.
And you really love it now.
And now I enjoy it. And, a month ago, I was speaking to one of my biggest corporate events that I've been, 400 people from all over the U.S. And I'll tell you, it felt like game day all over again. Like, I had the biggest butterflies. I had been prepping. I was ready. And as soon as I got on the stage, it was like when I got the bat in my hand, it was my turn to hit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this calmness came over, and it was like, do what you've prepared. And I'll tell you, like, I kind of liked that it took that adrenaline, because it's not just like, no big deal. Like, it matters. And I want to still do well, and I want to have a good product that I'm putting out there. And ultimately, Livy, this is what you do as well. You're wanting to impact other people.
Right.
I'm doing these different things, but they're on their own journey. And the idea is that they'd be able to hear what they need to hear so they can go out and pursue excellence in their own way.
And I like what you mentioned about how you like that some of that adrenaline is there, because it means that you care. And, on the topic of speaking, actually, you talk a lot, and you just mentioned about the importance of preparation. And I'm curious, I mean, obviously you've spoke for decades longer than I have as a public speaker. And so I guess more of a question for me is, what are your rules of prep before you speak on stage?
First and foremost, I want to know my audience as much as possible. Well, that's hard because you're planning months out. So I want to have a plan. So I try to talk to the people in charge, and I try to say, what is the goal? I really believe you need to know what the end goal is, and you work backwards.
Right.
And so once I do that, and I get a feel for what they want the audience to walk away from and information that they want to take and apply, then I say, okay, how does my messaging, my story, and the points I make, how do they align with that. What is the group? Because I speak to so many different vast audiences, all different ages. So I cannot say the same message to a company group that I'm going to say to the high school students.
Yeah.
But I have got to engage. That's always my goal, is to say this is about them and not about me. And so I meet with them. I say, who's my audience? I say, what's the outcome we want? And then I go all in with preparing my points and my story with what the outcome they would desire. And when I can merge those two, that's when I find it's the most successful.
I like that. And I had another question as far as speaking goes. Yeah, I guess this is sort of in a similar vein, but in addition to the preparation for speaking, were there any moments earlier in your career as a public speaker that you really learned from? You were like, okay, I'm going to maybe adjust the way I do that or the way I prepped for that. I'm just curious if there are any specific things that come to mind.
You know what? I think the biggest thing that I've learned is I prepare, and sometimes I would leave something out that I really wanted to say, or I'd add something I wasn't planning on saying. And I've really had to learn to give myself grace. If anything else, it was like, do the preparation, go in and know who you're talking to. And really the biggest thing that I hear, and people, when they can relate to you, they're going to receive your message a lot more. And so I have found that the more authentic I am, instead of trying to have some perfect polished speech that I'm never going to mistake, and that's what I'm worried more about, I realize they are like, oh my gosh, I can relate to you. I hear what you're saying. And I believe I believe in what you just shared with me. Yeah. So just, for me, it was more on stop trying to be so perfect. There's never going to be the perfect speech. Walk out and say, did you prepare? Did I give my best? Kind of like I was going up to the plate, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going up, and granted, I maybe like have the bat in my hand and I'm kind of more in control. But at the end of the day, I can't be responsible for the people in the crowd. Like they have to decide if they're going to receive it or not. So I've got to go in and just do my best to be real, authentic, and truly care. Because one of the things, and if I can encourage you on this, one of the things that I have heard from people is like, wow, just the fact that you actually care, that's already going to give you a leg up. And I was like, what? People come in and they really don't care? How is that even a thing?
Yeah.
But I guess some people, it's more of an act. And that's just not who I am.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, it doesn't surprise me, but it is exciting to... I think the thing I really love about the generation and my own generation that I specifically speak to is that they'll sniff out a lack of authenticity so fast. And I kind of love that because it constantly has me self-reflecting of like, am I performing? Because when I do it, especially 20-somethings, they know.
Yeah.
They know.
It's so true.
I know. And I enjoy, I mean, and also I don't want to be performing. I want to be authentic. And so I appreciate that. I like that advice. And in addition to kind of looking at your journey throughout different career paths, I suppose, I've been wanting to start including a bit more discussion regarding spirituality and religion on the podcast, because I haven't really done that much in the past. And I've had, people of all religious and spiritual beliefs on here. And I would love to just hear your perspective of the core way spirituality has interacted with your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really the foundation of what I've done. In college, I had a teammate. I grew up with a belief in God. And for me, a faith in the Bible being truth, and Jesus dying on the cross and rising from the dead, and that I, would receive what he did for me on the cross. So I as a little girl, like I'd heard about that. My parents, we'd gone to church every once in a while. Yeah. But it just wasn't a huge part of what we did. We're at softball fields every weekend. We're traveling all the time. It just was never a priority. So I look back in high school, I kind of feel like, I kind of just started kind of making my own beliefs up in a sense, right? Yeah. Try to be a good person. I believe in God. Got to college, won a couple national championships. Life is great. Well, I have a teammate my third year who came on the team and just was all about God. Like she loved Jesus, and but I will tell you, like she impacted me in the biggest way immediately because she loved people. like with a true, genuine passion. And I was like, okay, well, like I love people, but like there was something different about her. And I found that like her identity wasn't in a softball field. It was in what God said about her. She knew the Bible. I knew nothing about the Bible. So I had this belief in something I didn't really know, if that makes sense. Well, she was so passionate. She invited me to a Bible study. I went. I realized, oh my gosh, I've said I believe this, but usually true belief will take action. Well, I had nothing behind it. Yeah. So that began kind of my journey, my faith journey of like, God, I do want to follow you. I do believe Jesus is the Messiah. I believe he came, which is celebrated Easter. That's what, Christians around the world celebrate. And that just began this journey of surrendering in my life. Well, what happened along the way was I was not expecting, but it did change everything. It changed the purpose that even I'm here. I'm a college athlete. God, you've placed me here for a purpose. Yeah. My teammates around me. God, you want me to be here to connect with them and to shine your love to them like my teammate did. Mm-hmm. And playing softball for him. That sounds weird to some people, but ultimately, God gave me the talent and the ability. I want to honor him through this. When I'm failing, I want to trust him in the struggle. That has then obviously gone into my personal life in many ways. Now, let me tell you, Livy, one of the biggest things that impacted me was after winning a gold medal, winning national championships, I got a call one night that my teammate who invited me to that Bible study, she passed away suddenly. She was 21 years old. That was like, whoa, like I just like, how does this happen? She's the one who was, telling me, and I'm praying, right? I believe in prayer, and God really put on my heart, like, she's with me. The Bible promises are true. And you can tell other people about this. And I've traveled the world, and I've shared about Julie a lot of places because I only knew her for a very short time. And then she passed away. Yeah. But she lived in a way that loved God and loved people. And at her funeral, that's kind of the commitment I made is, God, I want to go out, and everything I stand for and stand upon, I want it to be hope and peace and joy and love and kindness, and ultimately, God, to point people back to you. And so I think it's great. Obviously, there's a lot of different views out there. There's a lot of different beliefs out there. I love hearing other people's views as well. But I think it's important to know what we believe individually, right? What you believe, and then walking forward in that, because I think it does impact us on a much deeper level than going out and, for me, winning gold medals and swinging a bat and ball, hitting a ball.
Yeah, yeah. Because it sounds like for you, when she shared that with you when y'all were teammates, that it put it in more of just a wider perspective of the way it impacts your progress, the way it impacts the collective of just humanity in general. Yeah. And that absolutely infuses more purpose into into what you're trying to accomplish. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I walked off of a game after one day at Arizona, and I was just frustrated. Like, I'd played terrible. Our team did well. And there's this actually the story in my book. You might have read this, but Steven, one of our super fans, was there at our practices, our games, and he's in a wheelchair, and he's just there with the biggest smile, ready to give me a high five. And and just because of my faith, I really believe God just impressed upon my heart in that moment, like, it's so much bigger. Like, you're out there and you get to run the bases, and it's a bad day, but look at the perspective, what you just said. And like, look at even the fans that enjoy. He can't walk, but he loves seeing you out there. So see the bigger picture, and don't just get caught up in the moment that you struggled today. And I feel like those moments, like, we all have aha moments and different things, but for me, I feel like it tied my faith to what I was doing on the field.
That's really interesting. It's really interesting to hear how it's sort of the way it came about. How cool. And moving forward a little bit, I want to make sure we get to talking about the gold standard a bit more. And when I had asked you what you would want to share with 20-something specifically, you had mentioned to me that you wanted to talk about how, instead of trying to map out everything, your advice to 20-somethings would be, and really to everyone, would be to focus on what it looks like to live their own gold standard. So I would love just to set a foundation for anyone that's not familiar with your framework, just to explain a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, so when I think of gold standard, it's the highest standard. So to me, excellence. So the best version of yourself. Yeah. So Livy, that's you saying, you know what, I'm not going to let fear hold me back. I have dreams, I have goals, and I'm actually going to go for it. Yeah. I'm not going to let my mindset, my fears, my worries, my doubts keep me from pursuing that. And this idea, but how, so for me, I feel like it falls into 3 buckets. I talk about map to excellence, and it's mindset, action, and people. I feel like if I look at my entire life, and I think if most people do, our thoughts are so powerful. They can propel us forward or they can hold you back. I've been in environments where people who are so much less gifted, talented, knowledgeable go so much further because they're more confident and they have more of a belief. And yet other people who are more talented are on the sidelines because the mindset of I can't, I shouldn't, the doubt, it can creep in and control you. So there's the thought process, right? That's huge. Your mindset is crucial. So I tell people, you want to be confident, you want to be resilient, you want to, believe like that you can do things, and then action. And that's just our mindset and our thoughts will always affect the action that we take or don't take, right? And that's kind of that next step. But here's what I tell people: do the next thing. An opportunity arises, try it. Do the next thing, because what happens is you're going to learn. And be a quick learner. I tell people, fail forward fast. If you can use failure as a positive, right, to advance, you're using it in the right way. And that's what I had to learn as an athlete. We dealt with a lot of failure in my sport. So it tested you, but then I've transitioned that into real life, and I'm like, why not? Let's try. Why not me? And so action. So for me, I'm big on just trying it, doing it, just take the next step, because that always gets you further than you were today, right? And then the last thing is, and I think this is huge, because you could be really confident and you can be bold. You could take action, and that's good. But if you are missing out on the people piece, in my opinion, it is a huge part of the journey. You're producing this for you to produce wider and make it better. You need a team of people, right? We're in a studio, right? You have people doing their strengths.
Yeah.
So you can do yours. And how you treat people. I tell people, build the dream team around you, right? I'm a speaker now. But I have people that help me with graphics and website. Those are not my strengths. But in order for me to do better, I have my family behind me, supporting me, right? And so I believe that key, like that, some people leave out the people, and I don't think you can go as far. And so if you can get your mindset in the right direction, your action moving towards your target, and the right people on board, I believe there's no stopping you. So the gold standard is this idea of, I'm going to pursue excellence, but those things need to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I appreciate the emphasis on the people piece, because that was an especially interesting pivot in my own journey, where I just went at it alone for so long, and at a certain point it's just like you can try that, but it's going to take so much longer, and you're just not going to be able to, the lack of longevity and the ability to actually expand, it's too much. You got to figure out a way to bring in other people, even if you don't have specifically career, I guess, but it really goes with all areas of our lives, where it's even if you don't have money to reach out to other people, there's energy exchanges and ways, especially for 20 somethings, oftentimes people do want to help, and just finding the correct way to approach that, which is something I talk about in my book a little bit. So I appreciate that. That is really important.
I think for 20-somethings, it is important, because I think as you get older and you see it, it's easier to do the ask. But I think if you can start doing that in your 20s, and you start building relationships, and you'll find there's more people willing to mentor out there for free. There's people willing to answer your questions. There's people even to offer help in ways we might think, well, no, I can't afford it ever. We need to learn to ask. And I think for 20-somethings, if you can get that part down and start building those relationships, like you just said, you're going to go so much further. But the key, what you said, is so much faster too.
Yeah.
It's going to take forever to go by yourself, and you're probably going to get burned out,
Yeah. 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 And I like that you bring up the topic of the ask too, because I guess I would just mention to anyone that is listening, I think for me, I was so nervous to ask for so long. And I finally got to a point where, and then when people would help me, or I would find mentors, I was like, why are they doing this? And, I I think I eventually realized, one, they see that, I found something that is aligned with me. And I think it's very exciting when you find somebody that has, aligned who they are and how they can help people. and the thing that they're pursuing, and at the same time, I would do that, and I do that for other people. And so I guess I would just mention that for anyone listening, where it's not selfish to ask.
No.
And as long as you are someone that would carry that on and reach a hand, and because the really cool thing is that as you gain more success, that when you as you get more cards yourself, like, you can lift people up, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, and what I found too, and what I do, I did a lot of softball stuff for a long time, and now that I'm doing other things, I can pass names along to people who I believe can uphold like that type of gold standard, right? People that are going to be a good example, people that are going to do things the right way. And then like people passed my name along. Now, what you just mentioned, I'm going, hey, I can't do it, but let me give you some names who I think would be great instead of me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's huge. That's part of the process of building relationships. And right? Everybody has always said, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? And it's who knows you. So you also need to reach out, and that's where it takes getting out of your comfort zone. But I have absolutely learned it's worth just saying, hey, here's who I am, here's what I do. If I can ever help you, what you just mentioned, let me be of help of any way.
Exactly.
And a lot of times you'll see it reciprocated.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. And so earlier you had talked a little bit about saying yes to opportunities. And this is something I people ask me about a lot, is how to know when something is I guess with my verbiage is an aligned opportunity for you. And I'm curious, how would you say when an opportunity is something someone should say yes to, especially when it feels scary or inconvenient or unfamiliar, or when should they say no? Like, how do you kind of navigate that when an opportunity is presented?
I think it really needs to align with your values. For me, I think as long as it doesn't go against my values, then it's usually pretty good, even if it's a skill set I don't think I have. When I got asked to do ESPN, I had done one other game series with a different station, and it did not go well. And I literally said, never again. I'm not putting myself in a situation to fail like that again. It was miserable. I'm clearly not good at it. It's not natural for me. Years later, ESPN came, and I did tell him no at first. And my husband's like, pick up that phone and call them back. I was like, I was going out of town to see my sister, and he's like, you can change that trip, and he was like, Leah, you have to try. And so that scared me, right? And I did not think I had the talent, but it was connected to softball. It did not go against any value that I had. I did get, asked to be a part of a book that people were writing, and I just didn't feel like the messaging made sense. And they were like, oh, but it's going to be a national bestseller, and there's these other people that are going to be in it. So it sounded very good, like it wants to pull you in. But at the end of the day, my messaging, I know is very clear. Faith is important to me, and doing things I believe just in a really right way. I just didn't feel like I should be a part of this project. And I said, nothing against your project. I appreciate the offer, but right now I just have to decline that. That's hard sometimes, right? Because it seems like I'm missing an opportunity, but I just knew in the end result that my values and kind of the direction I was heading wasn't the exact same with this book.
Yeah. So I guess that sort of brings up the idea of also being willing to say no, even if it looks good in theory, if it's not something that's actually going to, because it might progress you, but if it's not aligned with your values, it's not really going to progress you in the direction you'd like to go. So like, what's the point?
Yeah, I had another opportunity where someone came up, and they were it was the money that they were pulling. It was like, oh, you can make so much money. You'd probably have to travel all the time. Well, my kids were little, and I was like, I knew that wasn't my priority at the time. I think that's important too, of just what are my goals? What are my priorities right now? And that changes in different seasons. But talking, and again, they're just talking about big money, and they were talking about, travel, and literally they're in my spirit. For me, I'll pray about things, but like just in my spirit. And I think most people kind of have that conscience that where they just know. Yeah. And, some people are just willing to say, I don't care. I'm willing to, do it no matter what values are there. But I think when you kind of know, and I'm sure you've learned that, and it grows with time. Livy, you've probably like early on, you might have said yes to more things. And as you kind of get narrow in your purpose, I think it's easier to say yes and no. And that's what's happened for me as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I've, the more opportunity comes my way, the more I am keenly aware of how my body reacts to it and, you know, how my soul reacts to it. And learning to be very trusting of that, even if it might not even necessarily make sense to the people around me.
Yeah, I think it's great. You do want to just trust like what your heart is saying too. You know, I do think that's important, because I think if we get that check, there's a reason usually.
I agree. And as far as the gold standard goes, and I know you talk about a few experiences like this in your book, and I've heard you speak on a few experiences like this on podcasts, but I would love for you to share a moment, whether it was more recent or during your Olympic career, where you did feel pressure to meet someone else's standard, and how did you sort of find your way back to your own?
I did that as an athlete for sure. My first Olympic coach was older, and I feel like, you know, you're like, although early on I feel like I deserve to be here, and then you feel like, oh gosh, I want to keep this and I want to stay, right? And I feel like I'm constantly just trying to prove myself. And with that, I feel like I got away from just loving what I was doing, like focusing on the process. Instead, I'm more worried about what's their reaction going to be. It started taking the joy away. Right? It started taking the purpose away. And it was like, and I actually, like, in that sense, I had a sports psychologist come and like basically give me back my routine, my focus that actually separates that. And then is like, you can't control it. It got me back to controlling the controllables. I learned a little bit with speaking. Like, I think early on I was constantly like, well, what do people want to hear? And what do they want to do? And again, I just feel like what do I end up? I'm not good enough. I'm like, I can't please everyone. I'm not going to be. And instead of just being like, what is my, and I guess, you know what it came down to? External validation is good, but that should never be the driving point.
Right.
That's when we start to struggle. When we can know internally, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm where I'm at. I spoke recently to some scientists, and I thought, okay, I'm speaking to scientists, but I'm talking about the gold standard. Performing under pressure, right? Being your best in moments when it matters. Well, they know all about that in a totally different world, right? And I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a rough one. They were one of my best crowds. It absolutely shocked me. So I realized, you know what? Like, we can make up in our head all these things, but when we're authentic and we go forward with the message, the right people, when they're hearing it, they will respond.
Yeah.
And so internally, like, know what you're doing, walk forward in it. And then I realized, okay, recently got turned down when someone asked me to speak and asked what I talked about, and I shared, and then they said, okay, we're going a different direction. And honestly, I'm so glad. I can tell I've grown, because I was like, okay, that's not a right fit for both of us then.
Yeah.
I want to be somewhere where it's good for both of us.
Yeah. I love that. And sort of, I guess that's in the same vein of another question I wanted to ask, which was, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read a little quote that's in your book and ask you a question around it. Because I loved your chapter about exuding confidence. Mm-hmm. And you talk about how confidence is a choice and something that we can work on. And I wanted to read this little piece in here and ask you about it. This is her book, by the way. Go get her book. It's on page 83, and you said, when I struggled on the field, doubt threatened to come crashing in because I was surrounded by the world's best and most talented softball players. I had to remind myself not to play the comparison game. Staying consistent and working hard each day is how I built my confidence. That daily work allowed me to focus on my strengths instead of worrying about others around me. The lessons I learned as an athlete transferred to life off the field. I learned how to keep myself from getting too high or too low emotionally, no matter what was happening around me. I allow myself to feel my emotions and then respond positively. And I love that quote. And one thing I want to point out, which is why this came up for me, was where you're talking about, speaking to scientists, where you're like, they see this in a completely different perspective than I do. Like, this is kind of scary. They know all the neuroscience and that sort of thing. And, I loved that you reflected back on, well, if I stay consistent on what I know and I work hard every day, then what I'm bringing to the table is really all I can ask of myself. And, I'm curious if you could expound a little bit on that and just add a little bit of color and detail about how we can allow ourselves to shine in a room of a lot of shiny people and not start to play that comparison game.
Yeah, it's so hard to do. And especially with the world we live in now, social media, right? Yeah. It's like this battle of highlight reels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who's highlight reel? And let's be real. Some people, like, they have some pretty good, like, lighting and music, and they just do it better.
Yeah.
And, I think it absolutely is a battle. And I think instead of us worrying about what we don't know, because I think that's what starts to happen. We start to think, oh my gosh, but I don't know this, or I'm not as good at this. And we lose what we actually are good at. And as a softball player, I had a moment, Livy, where I was trying to hit like my home run hitter teammate.
Yep.
And in the batting cage, it looked great. But in real life, in a real game, it was terrible. And I started to lose my own strength. And I feel like that was like the biggest moment of like, this is a real life scenario situation of you cannot do this. You're going to be tempted to do it. But here's what I've found. Insecurity, worry, doubt, as that stuff starts to creep in, this is what happens. It creeps in and then it seeps out. And what happens is you don't just stay doubtful in one area, it goes into other areas. And that is something that I see when people are overwhelmed, discouraged, right? In one area of life, it could be your family life, it could be relationships, it could be work, it could be athletics, it could be whatever it is. A lot of times it then affects everything else, right? It creeps in, but then it seeps out. And so I just would say, when we start to get back to what do I know? What am I good at? What can I do right now, right? Mindset and then action. Like, what can I do right now? How can I help other people? Who do I have in my corner? Makes a world of difference. Yeah. I had days, and I don't know if you ever felt like this, but I was writing my book and I had days where I just would like overwhelmed, like, why am I even doing it? Like, is anybody even going to care? It's hard. I say no to so many other things, right? You make sacrifices again. And I just would be like, I just want to give up. And I just would have my moments. I would call a mentor and she would just remind me of my, my qualities, and people need to hear it and it's okay. And then I'd be like, okay, I got that encouragement again. So I go back to that mindset, action, people. It's, if you can literally do those in the positive, who's that person? Who are the people that you can turn to? What mindset? What's going on? I need to recognize it before I can change it. Right? And then, and then what action can I take? And I think if you start doing those consistently in everything we're doing, I just think we just keep moving up.
Yeah.
I don't even think you stay the same. I think you keep moving up. But so many people start with that M and they immediately start going down, and it just starts to unravel.
Yeah. So it sounds like something you'll practice is that if you are struggling to focus on your strengths yourself, you'll have someone else try and remind you of those strengths.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for sure. And we all have strengths. But what happens is when I start looking around, I usually will see, again, I'll feel insecure. I'll feel like, well, I'm not as good at them. And we're probably not. Like I had those teammates. I didn't care how much I practiced running. Like, I'm not going to be as fast as her.
Yeah.
But what is my fastest? And as soon as I got back to that, and so again, sports taught me a lot about how to do that in this area and season of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's very cool. And in addition to that, as we've kind of talked about some of this advice you would want to give to 20-somethings, I wanted to ask you, what is a piece of advice you wish every 20-something would ignore? Like that you feel like a lot of 20-somethings are being given and you're like, not so much.
Okay, well, I think it's just that, like this is the route in order to be successful. You have to go to college, you have to take on these loans, you have to get, this job right off the bat. Like, I think it's okay to not know everything. I think it's okay to be like, I'm still figuring it out. Like, I've raised 3 sons, all of them at the end of high school have no idea what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's wonderful for those that do and they get on a trajectory, but I'm like, that's okay. You have time. What are the life skills you're learning right now? What are you doing that's making a difference? My youngest might go to college for track. My middle one was like, nope, I want to try the YouTube, TikTok. He's doing well with it, and editing videos, learning a lot about that stuff, learning a lot about marketing along the way. And so I think it's okay to figure out your own path. You don't have to have all the answers. And I think too many times, not only are they maybe told that, but I think sometimes it feels like that, and people look at others like everybody else has it all figured out.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, what are your thoughts on, because it can be such a hard thing for so many people that reach out to me, is specifically when they don't necessarily have a support system that is encouraging of finding their own path. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you need to get more voices into the equation. I honestly, what I found in my mid-20s, I ended up having a friend that I had just met only like a year or two earlier mentor me. One of the best decisions ever. And I'll tell you, I think everybody should find a mentor. Like we have, right? Like softball had coaches, right? Or, you're going in to get a degree, you have instructors, right? Or professors. But I think like even in the life situations, and there are more people out there that are willing than you would realize. And it helped me in my marriage. It helped me raising my kids. It helped me in my faith. It helped me in my speaking eventually.
Yeah.
And guess what? That could be that one other person that as soon as you hear it over here, I can call up my mentor, and my mentor is going to speak encouragement, life, hope, and remind me, no, it's okay. It's okay. And so you have to be willing, though, to buck the system a little bit sometimes, because sometimes there is a lot of pressure. But that's for me, like, I think it's okay to be different. And I think you need to find those people that actually agree with that. It's okay to do things differently.
Yeah. And I'm sure also it makes me think of, if you have found someone that has become successful in the thing that you desire to pursue, I think that can also, some of the, especially parents, if they are, or grandparents that are like, don't do that thing. I think if you can find someone that's done it and you're like, hey, I have this person that's going to show me how to do it. Because really I find like, particularly with parents, I think sometimes parents will prefer to keep you safe over necessarily happy, because it's like, that's my baby. Yeah. But also I think if you can sometimes, with parents that are a little bit more involved in helping choosing the path, to be like, hey, I've got this person that's done it and they're helping me and I'm safe and it's fine. Yeah.
I think that's good too. I agree. And I think more than anything, parents really want the best usually for their kid, and they think this way's the best. I've lived a little longer than you, right? This is. But I think like to say, okay, yes, but at the same time, here's where I'm wanting to do this. And I think to be able to know that you have someone that can help you, I do think that could be seen in a positive way by parents.
Yeah, yeah. And I do want to ask, is there, does anything else come up that you would want to talk about with a 20-something audience, or even as a mom that's raised boys, what's a message that you find really important to know at this age?
I think when you have really solid foundational values, right, doing what's right, helping others, right, being the best version of yourself, a lot of opportunities are going to happen because of other people seeing that. And I think we're drawn to people that do things well with the right intentions. And for me, like ESPN called me because other people that I don't even know who it was, they were throwing out my name. I do the Women's College World Series because people threw out my name. I've gotten a lot of speaking engagements because one person hears me and then they tell someone else, you got to get her. So I think how you carry yourself matters. I think being willing to take some risks. It is scary. I think that's the important part. I have found that taking risks in the right direction, right? Again, doing things the right way, but being willing to stretch myself pretty much. It's not always comfortable. And in fact, it's, there's that failure part that we have to learn to just like say like, it's okay. Failure is okay.
Yeah. Because
what I learned from it is going to be the blessing. And then I can then use it to actually move forward through that. And so to me, like, just, and then again, I'm going to go back to the people part, Livy. Because when it all is said and done, I really believe life is meant to be lived with the people around us and to make their lives better and for them to make our lives better. Because when we die, like, what difference did we make, right? Yeah. And my friend, 21 years old, she passed away and I was 22. Yeah. So I was young and I was like, well, if I'm gone, I want to make sure every place I go into, people know they're loved, they're valued, that God has a plan for them, and that I was able to show that, not just say it.
Yeah, to show that in action. Yeah. And I'm just going to check our time really fast. Okay, cool. 222, angel number. Yeah, I love that, because it really is. I mean, the more I pursue what I do, the more I recognize that if it's not around the people that I love, and if it's not around, if I'm not bringing up people I believe in and love as well, it's like, and for what? Like, why am I doing this? Yes. And yeah, and I love that you, I mean, I know it's sort of a tough topic, but I like that you bring up death as well, because I think it's you know, all of us experience grief at some point in our lives. And at the same time, you know, in the way I grew up, I grew up around a terminally ill parent. I grew up around a lot of dying people. And at the same time, it was such a blessing, because death teaches us so much about living if we're willing to look at it that way. And it sounds like when that teammate passed, it really had such an impact on, like, how you really wanted to live.
Yeah, it really did. I noticed the difference. She came onto a team with so much confidence, and we were the best in the nation. I was like, how does she have this much confidence? Yeah. And again, I feel like she just came in knowing God's put me here for a purpose, and God's plan is so much bigger than a national championship. It's to just change hearts and minds and change their whole purpose and future. And she did that in my life, and she did it for a number of my teammates' lives. And then she wasn't here anymore. And so, you know, it's a perspective shift is what it is. And so as my kids grow up, and I've actually spoken at many funerals. My coach's wife, suddenly, my Olympic coach, passed away of a brain aneurysm right before we won our third gold medal. Weeks, just suddenly, unexpectedly. So when we won that gold medal, it was like, you know, we're on this podium. And for me, like, I was retiring. My son was at home. I was in Greece. And like, I got that gold medal placed around my neck. And then it was almost like I was able just to let the dam break, because I was just bawling, like all the emotions I feel like finally could actually flood in. Because up until then I had such purpose to finish the task at hand. And that was to win the gold medal. You know, 19-year-old girl who's like a daughter to me. Her and her twin sister and two teammates were hit by a drunk driver 5 years ago. And one passed away and one teammate passed away. And, you know, I said the eulogy at her funeral. And so with that being said, I'm reminded these are young people, and a lot of their friends obviously now have to grieve and go through this. But this idea of every day you can make it matter and you can make it count. And every day that we're holding back and we've, you know, we're whatever, making the wrong choices, hurting other people, you're just fearful, just live, but make a difference, make a positive difference. Because that's the idea. The idea of the gold standard was, I thought it was going to be leadership. And I think it includes it. But I think when you make choices to build other people up and give your best foot forward, it's like the world is a better place for it. And so are you.
Yeah. And I think that brings us beautifully to the end here, but the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, I thought it was so wild that in your book, your last chapter is titled Finish Strong, and you bring up some of these beautiful opportunities you've had to speak at funerals and be a part of that process. And I was so shocked that your last chapter was titled Finish Strong, because that was my dad's whole motto before he passed. And we did a lot of work in raising money for ALS, which was the illness that he had. And I by the way, that chapter is beautifully written. I loved it. And I brought this with me here today. This was from his funeral, and on the back he wrote this before he passed, and I just wanted to share it with you because I thought it was just so synchronistic that your last chapter was Finished Strong. And he said, "Life is a struggle, but it is worth the fight. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give in. We are greater than what we suffer. The strength of the human spirit is more powerful than any infirmity or calamity we face on earth. Fight with passion, fight with hope, and finish strong. And I just kind of wanted to share that in his honor and hear what finishing strong means to you.
First of all, that's beautiful. And I agree with every point of that. And the thing is, some people, when they get sick, they know that their time is limited unless some miracle happens. And other people, they're driving down the street and their time is done. Yeah. And I think in order for us to finish strong, we have to live each day well.
Yeah.
Because if today is my last day and I live it well, then I will have finished strong. And so I think that's beautiful. I think you're a legacy. And I think that's huge, because when you are doing the gold standard, you are giving your best, you are trying to make a difference and use what you've gone through to make the world a better place and to impact others in a positive way, to give advice that can lift people up instead of keeping them stuck or going backward. And so I have this bracelet. I brought a couple, and it says, be the gold standard. And then it says, I can and I will. And I want to give you that, because ultimately I can and I will. It's a mindset. It's I can. So I have to believe it. Yeah. But then I will is the action piece.
Right.
Right. And then everyone you meet, that's back to that P. And I just think of people around us. We all can choose to be the gold standard. It's pursuing excellence. It's not excellence of outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. And, as, I suppose as long as we are going into the day with that mindset of I can and I will, we're able to make the most of each day, as whatever that looks like, because it's going to look different every day.
Yeah.
But I love that. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah. And one more thing about the finishing strong, there is a verse, and I think of Julie, my friend, and it says, and it was Paul, the Apostle Paul, and he says, I have fought the good fight. I have kept the faith. I have finished my race. It might have been out of order, but he's basically saying, I've done everything I could. I'm ready. I know I'm going to die, but it says, now there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness that is not only for me, but also for all who long for God's appearing. And so I love that, because I think I work hard, right? We do what we can, but one day we all are going to die. And again, depending on your beliefs and depending on what ends up happening, we're all going to take our last breath at some point. And so when we run our race well, many, many lives will be impacted. And for your dad, obviously finishing strong, he's done that, but you carry that voice on. For my friend Julie, I'm carrying her voice on, but she impacted me. He impacted you. Yeah. And we keep the legacy going.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And I know we're pretty much out of time here. I'll just do one of my rapid fire questions. Sorry about that. Actually, I'll ask, was there anyone in particular? I know I sent them to you prior. Was there anyone in particular I don't know if you were able to go through them.
I did go through them. Thank goodness, because I'm not the greatest with all of this. I don't know if you remember them. You know what? I will say the book one. What's a book that you recommend? It's an older book, and I hadn't heard about it till recently. It's called The Way of the Shepherd. It's an allegory. It's it's a story of this guy who's a professor, but he also is a shepherd, and he has all these sheep. But it's all about leadership, and it is everything I believe in. It's all the gold standard. It's how I won gold medals. It's all about how you deal with people and any position of leadership that you have, how you want everyone to win, not just you, how too many people rule and they try to think I got to step on other people in order to lift myself up. And so I can't even remember who the author is right now, but The Way of the Shepherd, it's an older book, but I have been telling everybody about that book, and people have just been reading through it so fast, because it's so life-giving.
Beautiful. Thank you. I hope people go check it out. And where can people find you if they're interested in the book or just learning more about what you do?
Yeah, my website. Everything's at my website, Leah Amico, LeahAmico.com. All my Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all the things are on there. My book, the links to my book is on there, and ultimately just the topics that I speak on as well. But I'm excited, Livy. Thank you for having me, and also for all the 20-somethings that are listening to this, there are so many opportunities out there. I've traveled this world, and you go and you realize, wow, we really have so many opportunities. We just have to seize the moment before us.
It's true. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.